Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I have a new collection I wanted to share with you guys. Some people might get upset because I know that what I'm gonna show you is a plant that is considered invasive in a lot of countries, even some states here in the United States. But they are beautiful, they're easy, they're pest magnets, but I am prepared. And I just want to show you what I've been experimenting with. But before we get started, if you enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, okay? And subscribe, why not, right? Let's just do it. Okay, so what we're talking about here is Hedera Helix English ivy. I have a bunch of varieties, which I'm gonna go through and show you. Some are variegated, some are not. But the ones that are not variegated have really cool leaf shapes that they have bred. And I'm also testing out different growing methods. So let's just start up here. Beautiful variegated ivy. I'm not sure, this one didn't, oh no, it does. This one is called Bettina ivy. It's a beautiful variegated with cream, gray, and different shades of green. And this one is still in the nursery pot, and it's got a wick. It's a wick watering thing. I think it's from Houseplants or Angel Plants. Is it Angel? Exotic Angel Plants, that's what it is. But yeah, really, really pretty. I love variegated ivies. And I'll tell you something, my whole yard is full of ivy. It just grew from many, many years ago. Somebody planted it, and it just went nuts, right? So it's traveled all along the backyard, even over the fence into the front yard. But I also had planted, way after those started taking over, I planted something like this. I think it was called Glacier though, but it's a variegated ivy, and I put it in this rock garden area. And let me tell you, it has grown, but the variegated varieties of ivy are not nearly as invasive and fast growing as their green counterparts. So if you were to attempt to try to grow this outside, I would say make sure that you're growing a stable variegated variety. And the reason why I say that is because for variegated varieties that are not stable and they have sports of like normal green, those normal green will then take over and become invasive, just like as if they were never variegated, right? So these guys, because there's less chlorophyll, they don't grow as fast. They still grow pretty quickly compared to like other plants, let's say, but not nearly as fast as the regular green ivy varieties. Okay, so that's this one. Let's move this out of the way. We'll put everything up here on the stage, okay? This way you guys can see. We'll do the variegated ones first. This one I love. I love this plant. This one's called Ingrid Liz ivy, another variegated. This one is growing really nicely. As you can see, it's starting to vine out. And still in the nursery pot with the soil, with the wick. But I love this one. I love the star-shaped leaves. I love the outer variegation, the white edging. And there is some of that grayish and various green pigments. I just think this one is probably one of my favorite ivies that I have, but there are a lot. So I'm gonna show you a bunch of them. But yeah, really, really easy. And for all the ones that I'm showing you that are in soil, I let the soil dry out so the whole pot is light. Like if I lift it up, it's light. That's when I water it. And I don't like to leave a reservoir, so I let that wick soak everything up. And if there's anything left, I'll usually dump it out. Only because I know that just like any other plant, too much water in a soil environment like this can create root rot. So yeah, so that's this one. Really, really cool. And by the way, these are under like a chandelier, which is has an LED bulb. And they seem to love it. Okay, this one is called Yellow Ripple Ivy. Really interesting leaf shape and pattern and the veins. It's really, really cool. This is definitely, it looks like a mutant. You know what I mean? I love this. Looks like maple leaves. Maple leaves. But this one has yellowish cream variegation on the outside. The leaves are fanned out more than normal ivy, as you can see, and wider. Just really interesting, really cool. Oh, look at this one up here. That looks like a maple leaf for sure. But as you can see, this one doesn't grow as vigorously, you know? This one I've had probably longer than the others, but it has not been growing like nuts, which I don't mind. I don't mind. I don't need this plant to go crazy. I just love how beautiful those leaves are. And they grow very quickly in bright light, but if you have them in like a kind of like a darker area of your house, they're just going to grow a little slower and get a little lanky, just like anything else, but they can survive it. For instance, the ivies that I have in the yard, some of them are in complete shade. Like they're under trees, they're not getting any direct light at all, and they're thriving. Obviously, they've crossed over the border from the backyard to the front yard, but yeah, these variegated varieties are just beautiful. They're so beautiful. So that's that one. It's still in the nursery pot. Let's stick with those types. This one is Little Herman Ivy. This is from Costa Farms. Look at this. Now, the interesting thing about this one is every leaf is a little different. Some of them have little tips, little wings, I guess you could say. Some of them don't. Let's see if I can find one. Like this one here, it just has a single point, right? While up here, there's almost two. Up here, there's two. It's just really an interesting, this one has two. It's an interesting variegated variety. And I really love the variation of the leaf shape in addition to the variegation, the coloring. I just think that what I'm about to show you after this one are the green varieties that I have that have the unique leaf shapes. No variegation, but the leaf shapes are really what make the plant stand out. But this one is really, really cool. Same situation with the wick watering, and I don't leave a reservoir. Only because this is indoors, you know what I mean? But look at that, really pretty. Okay, moving on. Move on to this one here. This one's called Royal Hustler Ivy. And this one is really cool because the leaf shape is completely different. It's almost like arrowhead shaped. Look at these leaves. It's just really cool. You look at this and the first thing you think is, you're not like, oh, that's an ivy. You know, if you're familiar with ivies and you know that there are a lot of varieties, then yeah, you'd be like, oh, that's just an ivy hybrid. But under normal circumstances, someone that's not a big ivy person wouldn't really jump to that conclusion right away. I just think they're very, very cool. This one has a more compact growth, maybe because the leaves are smaller, I'm not sure. But same situation. This one is in the wick watering. I don't leave a reservoir. And again, I check by lifting to see how light the plant pot is. I could always check with my finger, but sometimes if the top is dry, but it's still very, very damp underneath, it's easier to check the weight. But really, really cool, right? Cool little ivy. Okay, now we're getting to some of the experiments. I'm gonna move you down here to the lower stage. And this here is a spearhead ivy. Each of the leaves look like spears. They're like long spears. And I moved this into lava rock, into semi-hydro, with just a little tiny reservoir at the bottom because it was acclimating. But I think now at this point I can just kind of have a full-fledged reservoir. But this plant has started growing in semi-hydro already. No fertilizer, but these plants are pretty robust and can take a lot of stress and a lot of abuse. Look at these leaves. Again, a different shape in the ivy leaf. This one, since it's the spear, what is it called again? Let me see. Spear point ivy. Look at how long and pointy these leaves are. Again, if you didn't know, you know, if you don't know ivies very well, you wouldn't automatically assume that this is an ivy. Really, really cool. Almost looks like an alternanthera or something like that. But yeah, so this has been doing great. Didn't even wilt when I moved it to semi-hydro, into lava rock. All I did was what I normally do is I just washed the roots really well and in water, got rid of all of the soil, put it in to the lava rock with just a little bit of a reservoir that's below where the roots were so that the roots don't suffocate and go, what's going on? Because they were used to soil. That's a great way, and I know that I probably said this, and I know everyone talks about this, but I might as well mention it here. When you're transferring a plant to semi-hydro, whether it's leca, lava rock, pond, whatever, the best practice if you want to have the most success and you're keeping the majority of the roots is to keep the reservoir, at the beginning at least, below where you have those roots when you're planting this into your substrate. So if the roots ended here I'm gonna have the water level down here. So it wicks, but it's just damp. It's not suffocating those roots that are not used to being in water. They're not water roots at that point. Anything now that grows down into the reservoir will be water roots and will be able to survive and thrive in that reservoir. But I just think it's really cool. I'm also going to be experimenting, just an FYI, making some of these into bonsai, because I've seen some really cool bonsai ivies that just look really awesome. And I fell in love when I saw the pictures, so I'm like, I'm going to try it. But not right now. I just have so many other things going on that I don't have the time to really sit and work on that yet. But I will. So yeah, so that's this one. No fertilizer yet. I know that a lot of people say that ivy, they don't need fertilizer a lot because they grow fine without anything, obviously. But I am gonna eventually fertilize everything because I want everything to have exactly what it needs to thrive. But yeah, really, really pretty. Before I even continue and go to the last one that I'm gonna show you, the biggest pest issue that I've ever had with ivies is spider mites. Spider mites, just like Calathea, they love English ivy. So I am keeping a close eye on all of these. If I do end up getting an infestation, hopefully I can catch it early on. But if I don't, I can always take cuttings, soak them in a little bit of soapy water, and restart these plants because English ivy propagates so easily from stem cuttings. All right. So yeah, so that's that one. And moving on to the last one is the last experiment. This is, I can't remember the name of this. It did not come with a tag, but I had it, and now I'm gonna have to get it again because it was tagless. Poor thing. But I have this one in a self-watering planter with acrylic yarn. You can see this one I'm keeping a reservoir because it is wicking up through those yarn wicks that I have at the bottom. And the plant is loving it. It's doing great. It took a little bit of an adjustment period, and some of the new growth started to show signs of stress and dried up a little bit. Anytime that the growth point shows an issue, you know there's a problem with the roots. So transferring this to yarn was a little different than transferring this one to acrylic, not acrylic, to lava rock, because there are many more gaps between the lava stones in here than there are in the acrylic yarn. So some of the roots probably got a little suffocated, and that's probably why the growth points started to dry up a little bit. Not all of them. You can see this one did fine, but some of them did. This one's fine too. But yeah, so this one almost looks like a bonsai already. Maybe this will be the bonsai. I'm so excited. Anyway, let me calm down. Calm down. So as you can see, English ivy, outdoors, invasive, a lot of places. They are also very cold hardy, so they can live to like below 0 in a lot of instances for a period of time. Yeah, they just do really well. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna just do it because I love these plants, even though they pose an issue if you're growing them outside. And believe me, I know, because it's very expensive to get ivy removed when it's all over the place. So these are indoors. That's where they're staying. They're not going anywhere else. And I'm just gonna enjoy their beauty and learning more about them because, you know, I've had ivy obviously in the yard for a long time, but I never grew them indoors for long periods of time. And so, yeah, I will keep you guys posted on how this whole situation goes. But these are my ivies. And if you have any questions about English ivy, be nice, because I know a lot of people say, you shouldn't have that, it's invasive. I'm like, yeah, okay. But if you have any questions about how I'm growing these plants, whether it's the wick that they came with, or if it is the acrylic yarn or semi-hydro, leave a comment, we will discuss. Oh, and I just wanted to say, this one here, it looks like there's a reservoir, but there's no wick. You know what I mean? You see there's no wick in there? So I just haven't dumped that out yet, but it's not sitting in the water. There's an area between. And this just was after I watered it the last time. I just never dumped it. But it's okay because it's not sitting in water. But yeah, I'll dump that out right after this video. But yeah, if you have any questions on English ivy, or if you just want to share experiences that you've had with English ivy, let's say they ruined your life if you had them in the yard, or people got mad because they went to the neighbor's yard, which started happening here. They didn't get mad though, they just chopped them, and I'm like, go for it. But but yeah, if you love variegated plants and you want something that's a no fuss, except for the mite situation, the spider mites, which potentially could happen if you introduce them into your house, I definitely say get just one variegated English ivy to add to your plant collection, because it's just something that I feel like everyone should have at least one. You know what I mean? And I definitely recommend the variegated as opposed to the non-variegated, because you don't want something that's going to be completely unruly. For example, if this was to grow any faster and be up against a wall, this would start attaching to the wall. And that could be a problem too, because then those roots, they attach with like a weird kind of cement, and then it'll take the paint off of your wall. So I don't recommend putting it near a wall if it's growing quickly, but I definitely feel like the variegated varieties are just beautiful. They're beautiful. That's why you see fake silk ivy plants all over the place. You see them in sometimes in supermarkets, in like IKEA. You see them in big box stores, in addition to the actual live ivies that they also sell in big box stores, but very popular. People just love the look of them. And if you can keep them healthy and maintain them and not let them get out of control and ruin your life, they're beautiful. They are beautiful. Think about them as the more temperate version of like a pothos. You know how pothos in like tropical areas could just go nuts and they attach to everything and they climb up trees and they just make your life miserable? Think of ivy, English ivy, as the temperate version that can handle cold. The temperate version of that type of a plant. They're not related in any way, but the growth pattern and the way that they live their lives is very similar. Growing up surfaces, trees, fences, whatever. So if you can keep it in control, keep it healthy, I definitely recommend variegated versions to keep inside the house, okay? Can't say that enough. And some states and some areas, some countries have laws against them because they're, it's hard to eradicate once they get crazy. I know that here, because I live in New York, a lot of the wild areas like the woods, the forests, the national parks and stuff like that, or not national parks, the state parks, we don't have any national parks here in this area, but the state parks, they have just ivy growing everywhere. Like when you go into like the paths where you can ride your bicycle or joggers go, you'll see ivy just all over the place, growing on trees, growing on the ground, and you'll also see poison ivy, which is not related. I don't recommend growing that. Let's not do that because you'll end up very itchy. But yeah, I recommend getting yourself at least one variegated English ivy for your indoor plant collection. If you have any questions, like I said, reach out, we'll talk. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that bell if you want to be notified, and I will see you in the next video.